I am absolutely pleased to have Kent Annan with us. Kent and I connected a few years ago back when he was trying to decide what he wanted to do next with his life. He's always had a heart for disadvantaged people, for refugees, for those on the edge. And he found himself a few years ago working with Tony Campolo's ministry, which at that time was called Beyond Borders, in Haiti. It's now called Haiti Partners. But he wrote a book called Following Jesus Through the Eye of the Needle, Living Fully, Loving Dangerously. It's a terrific book, beautifully written. But who knew, Kent, that your experience in Haiti, living there, building a house there, spending the first 2.5 years of your marriage there, would be followed up with this kind of engagement. I mean, we want to talk about the book, but you've just been to Haiti. What did you find?
I was just there for 2 days. I wasn't there when the earthquake happened, but went for 2 days as quickly as I could, and just got back. And the devastation, like we've seen on TV, is incredible. At the same time, because the streets were cleaned up, the bodies weren't on the street. A few bodies that they'd pulled out of one building, but this juxtaposition of a city in ruins, and yet people sort of making their way, and they've set up the sticks with a little ripped up sheet over top of it that's a new home, and cooking rice there, and so this juxtaposition of complete ruin and people sort of getting on is striking.
Well, yeah, you took quite a bit of footage. I think we've got something here right now of sound on, Jim. Oh, I'm sorry, it's sound on tape. Okay, so let's go to it and you're talking, right?
Right.
Okay, let's listen.
Just arriving at the church where we worshiped 2.5 months ago, where my wife and I, when we moved to this community, used to come every morning around 7 o'clock to worship and take communion together. Just got here, and nobody's here right now, so I don't even, I don't know if any of the church leaders died. I don't know if anybody was inside or Sunday school, 5 o'clock. I hope not. I know nothing. Yeah, it's a beautiful church. 2.5 months ago, we were here with some friends from the U.S. and there were people. This right here was where there were kind of steps up in a little gallery, and this church was always packed. So there'd be people standing outside. You'd have to get here a little early to get a church and to get a seat, and then on the other side and sort of up front. There's where the cross was, where communion was. Here's a couple of the pews. We probably sat on these pews at some point when we were coming to church here. And one of the things people say, and I certainly feel at times, is how do you see this and believe in God? But then I assume it happened here because it was happening all over the areas that were affected by the earthquake. They were probably, instead of inside this building, the people were probably gathered singing hymns and praying to God. And in these conversation after conversation, I might be crying out in anger to God, and they're saying, God, thanks that we at least have life, or thanks for what we do have. It's beyond words. I can't believe I'm standing on this church as one of the most special places of worship and for my faith. Oh, man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You can see some more of the pews up here. This would have been getting right up front to where everybody took communion.
We're standing on
together.
The roof right now, right?
Yeah, we're standing on the roof right now, about maybe 4 or 5 feet off the ground, completely pancaked down. Careful, careful, careful. And still a little dangerous and cracked. And I feel like I should be more articulate, but I don't know what to say here.
Now, Kent, you made an observation there that I've made many, many times in my work in Africa. Those who have the least, when devastation comes their way, their first reflex is to praise and bless the name of God. Whereas the Westerner, who is a materialist essentially and has everything, has a crisis of faith. Why do you suppose that is?
I don't know why. My father-in-law was in Haiti with us visiting while we were living there, and came to church one day, and he'd been there long enough for 4 or 5 days to see how hard life is, just what it takes to make it every day, food, water, kids who can't go to school. And so we went to church, and he was kind of watching all these people gather and dressed up in whatever their best clothes are coming to church, and he just kind of pulled me aside and said, I can really understand why people would come to church. They need to ask for so much. There's so much to ask for. And I just sort of blurted out, and it's been my experience that it's true. I said, they're not coming to ask God for what they don't have. They're coming to thank God for what they do.
Yeah.
And that's definitely been, in any of these cases, you always receive more than you give when you're doing things like this. And I feel like definitely being challenged in my faith to have gratitude as sort of this base of my commitment and relationship with God is gratitude instead of want.
Yeah. Now, you come from a preacher's home. You grew up both in the States and Canada. You're a graduate of Princeton. You spent time, in Kosovo, was it? You've seen a lot of the world. Why Haiti? Why is it that you ended up there, and why did you choose to live the way you lived there?
Right. I'd worked with refugees for a few years with international teams and really enjoyed doing that, and then went to seminary, sort of working out, wanting to be better prepared for ministry, and also to work out my own faith and ask some of these questions. And then we were looking, my wife and I, what do we do next? And I really felt drawn to this kind of ministry, and as we went into it, we just were trying to find a place where the need was great, where we could do that, and then also finding a place where we really liked how the organization did it. So I really liked how international teams did it, but I sort of wanted to go in with this sort of immersion approach or incarnational approach. So with this organization, we went down within 24 hours of landing in Haiti, so never been to Haiti. 24 hours, we're living, you'll see in the next clip, living with this family. We don't speak Creole, there's no running water, there's no electricity, tin roof. And we lived there for the first 7 months. They said, you can't work until you do this first. And so that was part of the appeal, was Haiti's needs, and we've come to love Haiti as well. But then this approach really made sense to me.
You really are so descriptive in the book about that. I mean, you're newlyweds. You're suddenly in this totally foreign culture. You're dealing with everything from rats to rats, your favorite creature on the planet. I love what you say about rats. And just a whole malaria, lack of privacy. What would you call it? Not even primitive privies. Yeah. I mean, and so there you are. But anyway, now we have this thing that's just happened in Haiti, and you've just been there. Let's take another look at another one of the clips that you provided us here.
Jasper is one of the participants in our leaders program. Who met Suri? Jasper is one of the leaders in our leaders program, and so he's been working with us for more than a year on that. And I've been with the family, moved in with the family here 7 years ago. So they're really close friends. So tragic to see them in this situation, but obviously we also see the courage and ready to find ways to get back at it. Jasper, AP ordinateur, liteandon côté.
Konya le blokage konya tobe pa amba lem te fet nacelite
Mainly tombe amba kavan. So the computer is part of our program. Computers aren't that important in this moment, but just part of the story. So they each get a laptop computer as part of this program. And when it started happening, the computer sort of ended up falling off and falling under the bed, and it ended up being saved. So the computer's all right. So. And what God gives you, He really gives you. I'm not sure how to translate that one, but it's again amazing, because it's thanking God for what was saved instead of complaining about what wasn't.